Good evening. You're watching MNB World. Welcome to our Defacto review, our weekly roundup of news and current affairs with our political commentator, Jargal Defacto.
Good evening.
And I'm your host, Namsred Sindh. We are live on Facebook, and you can join in on our conversation on Twitter with hashtag Jargal_Defacto. Today on our program, President Battulga Khaltmaa paid his first visit to the People's Republic of China. Will we have to verify our identity with registration numbers to sign into Facebook? What happened during National Disaster Preparedness Training? All that and more on our today's program. Our first topic, President of Mongolia, Battulga Khaltmaa, is paying his first official state visit to the People's Republic of China. The visit coincides with the 70th anniversary of Mongolia establishing diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China. The two sides exchanged views on strengthening cooperation in agriculture as well as on developing the Asia Supergrid. While in Beijing, the president also attended the Second Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation. Let's get into our questions. What can we expect from the president's first official visit to the People's Republic of China?
Well, this is a state visit. In particular for Mr. President Battulga is coming that state visit to China. As you said, 70th anniversary of diplomatic relations of two countries. And we have a full strategic partnership agreement at the level of our foreign relations at this level. Mongolia has no any border issue, territorial issue with China, also with Russia. And it's very lucky because we have a too large neighbor and we have not this sort of problems. So this visit will be important landmark for further development with China. China is our majority of our, China is completely, almost we're depending on China with our economy. So from that visit, not only we are waiting for several projects to be implemented, financed also by China, and they have promised $2 billion yuan money to Mongolia, and there was many of about 30 or so documents were signed. But my take is many of those signed documents are memorandums of understandings, which we have seen many signed during our president or prime minister visits to other countries by our business people and by some also state companies. And but unfortunately, not all these memorandums are usually later on implemented or executed. So I'm just asking a question from our officials that if we don't implement, then why we are sending so many documents? And it is coming also mostly because our government keeps changing, and every 1.5 year, on the average, our power is changing. So is the contract, the memorandum of understandings too, because we have signed almost, I think, 10 or so memorandum of understanding on, for example, building up power stations at the sites of coal mines. None of them is done so far. So that's the one concern. And of course, many contracts signed. The other thing is, somehow Mongolia is signing. Irtines Steel had signed a contract with Chinese counterpart to make 10 million tons capacity steel processing factory in Mongolia. We don't know the feasibility study of that, and it was more political will at the beginning, but it should have also economic rationale, and we don't know really how much that economic rationale is existing when Mongolia is making a new steel. And who is going to buy? Do we meet the Chinese standards of this steel when we are the first time producing this steel? So many questions are now staying unclear, but however, they have signed, I think, another memorandum of understanding. So, that's what is how I see the visit.
You mentioned about a number of projects that are planning to implement. What are the most promising projects that you think that would be beneficial for Mongolia?
Well, many projects, if those are done, could be promising for Mongolia. But however, there is no agreement to sign in terms of Belt and the Road Initiative. There were many talks among 3 countries about the corridor, trans-Mongolian corridors of power station, electric power, gas, and petroleum, and also fiber optics. None is done so far. All the conversations go on very long. So I'm staying not that much optimistic about all this, the documents. In particular, we see now more increasing state role in Mongolia in the economy. Now, Mongolia looks like creating another state companies. So it is very early to say about truly the implementation of those projects.
Of course. And there are plans for a 3,000-kilometer pipeline from Russia to China is at the center of attention during this meeting. So what are your thoughts on this mega project?
Is it pipeline, you said?
Yeah, the 3,000-kilometer pipeline project.
Of what?
From Russia to China.
Gas or?
Gas.
Well, this gas and oil, the long-talked project, I don't think these 3 countries are ready. 3 governments are working very slow. But I think Mongolia is to take now more faster initiative to move faster, and to say that through Mongolia is the best economic effective way, because all other projects are not, in China, for many projects are not viable, in particular this Belt and Road Initiative. Billions of dollars were invested, and now the overcapacity of infrastructure development in China, they want to use it for the international projects. But none of many of those initiatives are not integrated into the initiatives of other countries. As a result, they are being implemented so slowly. But through Mongolia, it can be done faster. If they will do this, it's great. Another thing is, they have been discussing about the super grid of electric transmission from Mongolia through China, which is a good conversation itself. The idea was to create renewable energy factories in Mongolia, to get integrated all these lines and to export through China to Korea and Japan. And it's a time to, in fact, we had a long time ago to start, but now only the conversation goes at the level of the 2 presidents. China will be supporting that project, which is good. And then, but however, now we have to agree a lot of technical things. How much will be the price at our border here, and then the border there on the south side, etc. So this sort of mega projects conversations are good, but it doesn't mean that it will start tomorrow.
Right. So, you mentioned about a mega project of energy. So, is there any opportunity for Mongolia to actually become an energy exporter, maybe with the help of China?
Well, this renewable energy potential of Mongolia is estimated with they show great optimism, because wind and solar combined together in Mongolia can be a source of a great amount of energy, electric energy. So that's why they are discussing of possible Asia super grid from Mongolia and through China and to Korea and Japan. If it is done, but we need a lot of things to do in Mongolia, because we need first to create all these power stations, and it will take time. And now good news is the wind and solar energy technology has developed so much that the efficiency increases so much that it gives hope that with a relatively smaller investment, we can create a larger capacity of renewable energy. Then Mongolia, our need is, compared with what we think about those renewable energy capacity, is very small. So all they are to go to for export, and only through China. So hope this project will go on.
Oh, let us get into our second topic. At the end of 2018, discussions began about amending the communication law of Mongolia. Starting last week, a new debate has emerged about requiring state registration numbers to verify the identity of users logging into social media accounts. Members of parliament are concerned about issues related to fake accounts, fake news, and defamatory social media posts. Some MPs have proposed taking regulatory measures to address these issues. In the meantime, another group of MPs are part of a working group that proposes establishing a national center to fight cybercrime. So let's get into the questions. Are political lawmakers being too sensitive about fake accounts and fake information on social media? What do you think about the proposal to require people to register their state identification numbers in order to sign into social media accounts?
Well, I don't think it is a very smart thing, because then everybody will lose their another personal number of registration, not only a phone, but a registration. We have, by the end of 2017, 3.8 million mobile users, telephone users, and 2.6 data users, and 2.4 smartphones, and 2.9 million internet users, which itself is a great number. That means this country is quite much digitalized in a way.
Connected to the world.
Connected, yeah, the highest connectivity. And internet capacity is 120 gigabytes per second. So altogether it shows it's a part of our life, and social media is too. It's true that some use that social media freedom for defamation, for distributing fake news. So the best thing is not to enforce people to register with their registration number, because the telephone number would be enough. Telephone number in Mongolia, there were 650,000 not registered telephones by the end of 2016. Today only 42,000 telephones that has no registrations. But for very shortly now, every telephone number will be registered in the country. That means it will be a possibility for everybody to register with the telephone number. But those who register, like in Facebook, with their email, those are concerned. Of course, the government is talking to Facebook, but Facebook says that you have in your legal system not that requirement to register with the telephone. Mm-hmm. For some countries, for sake of child protection, child cyber protection, they require telephone to be registered for social media, like Korea and Japan. China has own social media, so it is inside system. Some politicians also suggest to have, for example, Mongol.com, for example, so that everybody who has account in Mongol.com, say, national net, and they can register with Facebook. But whatever we do, there will be new technology changing that situation.
Right.
Okay. So the best thing is to control this kind of things by the people themselves.
Right.
So maybe the best thing is for ordinary user of social media to report or blog fake accounts, which you can see there's no names, nothing, but
pictures.
Just used for defaming or distributing fake news. So maybe even there can be some initiative that we can create new page on Facebook that is ranking this sort of fake news.
Dedicated for
to analyzing
Right.
this kind of fake news distributors or defaming people, so that only with the participation of people themselves we can control.
does any other country have similar experience in the government trying to force their citizens to register the state official number?
There are many attempts by many countries, in particular by politicians, but unfortunately the sort of efforts always come with limiting the freedom of people, freedom of speech. In Russia, for example, if you saying a wrong information, you have very high, or defaming somebody, it has about almost several $100,000 equivalent penalty. And also they are stopping to have accounts, fake accounts in particular. They check it. A very interesting attempt by many countries. But the best the best thing is to register wherever they want. People want to, in the virtual world, you go wherever you want. So you go and register, but in the virtual world, when you distribute fake news, then it is to be not supported by ordinary people. The other people just to say this is a report back or block. This is the only way to stop this kind of fake news. Otherwise, it's technically not possible. And on the way, they are limiting our freedom of speech.
Right. So, what can we do to keep fake news from spreading on social media? Some people are, some prime minister, some government officials are talking about opening a dedicated force for.
To make a secure all this online information.
Yes, a dedicated group to keep the secure, report these fake news and control other defamation claims.
The fake news and all this sort of information is, of course, a threat on one side. On the other side, if you go into details, then you have a more chance to lose private data to people who wants to make a wrong thing. So we talk about mostly about the protection of our data. In particular, we have a data center of Mongolia. It's a specially designated place, and where all our information comes day every second. Now this data center knows what we buy, where we go, what kind of our consuming behavior, right?
Right.
Where we go, where we eat. But now issue is what is done to protect our private data. And that's the law they want to do now with this, all the support suggestions they come with about the registration. You know, the best thing I've found so far, I saw it in Estonia. In Estonia, the government has all your information through different ministries, registration process. Wherever you go, you give the data. But in Estonia, it turned out the person, as an individual, I know who is using, who is referring, who is coming to my data.
I see.
Now, what they do is, at the end of the year, I mean, anytime you go to the website and you know who is receiving or collecting or requiring your data, private data. It could be, for example, I don't know, credit card company, bank, and then, I don't know, police, whatever. But only thing, if I need, I can send email and ask particular institutions why you are requiring my data. And they, by law, they should reply to me back. So that excludes private misuse of your personal data by somebody.
I see.
Because then that person who is somebody has some access to the public data information center. So that in that way they can identify who is using your private data. I think this is the best data protection I have seen. And again, it's more participation of people.
So it's both ways, so it works much better.
Yes.
I see. And if this law is to pass, would Facebook really accept this? Would it be possible for them to actually change, force people to register their numbers?
So far, if our law says that for social media, you require this and that, but it does not it is not necessarily cover or Facebook activity because it's not our jurisdiction. Facebook is American and international jurisdiction, and we cannot force them to implement our laws. But in cooperation with them, we can, of course, try to prevent this sort of fake news. And however, we cannot control Facebook.
Yeah. So let us get into our next topic. Moving on to our next topic, on April 25th, National Disaster Preparedness Training was conducted in every district in Ulaanbaatar. During the training, residents gathered at their nearest designated safe zones. During the 3-day exercise, the sale of alcohol was banned, and traffic on all roads and bridges was stopped between 7 and 9:30 a.m. So, the Ulaanbaatar produces 70% of nation's GDP, but this city our city is ready to withstand an earthquake or any other natural disasters, excuse me.
Well, this event was an important thing. At least the people know, because at least there were 111 squares where people got together. Not everybody came, of course, but once you are there, you are registered. You show certain paper to these people. They put stamp, and they advise you how and what to do in case of emergency. In particular, in this case, about the earthquake. But the whole event gave us some good food for thoughts. First of all, how much safe are our buildings, right? So there was a JICA sponsored study in 2013, which says that in Ulaanbaatar, if earthquake is happening of the strength of strong as 6.5 to 7.6, the score, then from 20 to 50% of buildings will collapse.
Right.
From 30 to 60,000 people may die, and 200 to 300,000 people will be injured. If the earthquake will be of the 3.4 scores, then 29 schools buildings will be collapsed, 46 kindergarten buildings, and 30 hospitals. So this figure gives us to think twice. How safe are our buildings? The house we live in, the office we work in every day. And then it gives me also another thought. Who is giving us guarantee that the construction process is safe, buildings are safe? Nobody, because in Mongolia, in terms of real estate, like in other countries, there is a real estate developer, then builder, contractor, then sales, and then at the end they are maintenance team or company. In Mongolia, all this work is done just by one construction company, mostly owned by one person.
Right.
And who's giving a guarantee of each column of each wall of that building is done according to safety standards. In many jurisdictions, they involve insurance companies who sending professional to the site. Right. And they approve every floor, every building, every floor and every column that it is according to the standard. That percent of the cement, beton, or metal is done there. And I don't see that in Mongolia. So first of all, for proper disaster preparedness, we need to check all our buildings and to make sure that all new buildings are now being done to that standard. Right. And unfortunately, it is not the case in Ulaanbaatar, where you see Bayong Mongol, for example, district, many similar districts. They have so much close built the buildings, next to each other. And there is even the car cannot pass. Right. Even probably in certain cases, pedestrian, a person cannot pass.
Really small.
So, I mean, how can the city give permission to such a buildings? Because the officials who were given that permission are corrupt. They got on price and they made such a things, so many buildings together, side by side, no human, the social infrastructure, no schools, no kindergarten,
Right.
only in the best case some shops on the first floor of the building. How long we can survive like this in this Ulaanbaatar city? So that's the major concern for me.
Would it be possible to, make it requiring the new buildings to be, they would be able to withstand the earthquake? Would it be
There is
possible
certain
to
standard.
Right.
You cannot make a building that kind of stands against any kind of earthquake.
Right.
But there is a certain international standard that is required for buildings, but we don't see the certification of those standards in Mongolia, in these buildings. Who is the authority to certify that this building can stand that and this level of earthquake? So we need to work on that.
So, I see. Do you think this training worked to raise public awareness, disaster preparedness, and disaster resilience? Did it really work? Because most of the people who went there, from what we see, it went there just to get that paper and to register it onto work. So
yeah, because it is training and people have not much seriously paid attention. But those who paid seriously attention, they at least learned what to do. The other thing, now among the public, the better awareness of what happens if earthquake comes, then what kind of things you have to prepare. At least you have some small suitcase with, I don't know, with flash
Essentials.
and everything, right? With, or at least, well, some things that you need for a couple of days, maybe food, drink, something for emergency kit, you know. And the other thing for awareness was, I have called the Telecommunication Regulatory Commission, that if there is any channel that people will know about any emergency cases at the same time very quickly. It turned out most TVs, at least 3 TV, the public TV and this TV, UBS and Mongol HD, and some operators, not all of them, Mobicom, Unitel, this operator, and the several FMs, including 102.5, 963, etc. Several, 5 or so out of 15 FMs, only 2, 3, 4, the most. They have an agreement with this telecom company, telecom regulatory office, that anytime they can stop whatever they are on those channels, they can stop and give information, simultaneous information, in all around the country, which is good news. This kind of, and also, in particular, FM are very important. If you are driving, then your FM you should go your radio switched on.
Right.
Or playing something, even not playing, just to put a low volume, but then suddenly it will give you this signal or the information what to do, like the case in many other countries. In Germany, for example, they give
also in Japan
road information.
Right.
Yeah, and they suddenly, when you drive, then suddenly the radio says to you that this road and that road is so far is this kind of delayed. So what's happened? So you can go around.
Okay, unfortunately, that is all the time we have for today.
Well, okay. You can watch our program on our also website, jargaldefacto.com, and we issue also a newspaper including these reviews, which goes in Japanese, in Russian, in Mongolian, and in English. You can subscribe this newspaper, Jargal de Facto Gazette, the De Facto Gazeta, on our also website in the language you would like to have, in 4 languages. Thank you very much.
We will see you next week with more reviews and updates. Have a nice evening. Goodbye.
Good evening.